Phillies are 2008 World Champions of Baseball.
The Philadelphia Eagles are Super Bowl champions. Eagles fans everywhere, this is for you.
Now entering the game for Philly Pressbox Radio, Bill Furman and Jim Chet Chesko.
It's Thursday, December 26, 2024. Hoping everyone had a Merry Christmas, and welcome to the Philly Pressbox Radio Roundtable, brought to you by the Irish Rover Station House in Langhorne, PA, Cavs, Philly, Tailgates, and the STT Sports Network. I'm Bill Furman. I'll be your host tonight, along with my partner, Jim Chet Chesko. Chet, the Eagles let one get away Sunday in Washington. QB1 could be out again this week against Dallas. That'll be interesting. QB2 could be out too. The Sixers have won 3 of 4 before yesterday's game against the Celtics, and they knocked them off. Who'd have thought of that? The Flyers stumbled into the Christmas break, losing 4 of 5. The break couldn't come soon enough for that bunch. Penn State got the job done in frigid Happy Valley in round 1 of the new college football playoffs. Next up, Boise State on New Year's Eve. And sadly, the Philadelphia sports scene lost a great one with the passing of Eagles legend and my favorite all-time Eagle, Bill Berkey. We have plenty to talk about, as always, on Philly Sports.
Yeah, we sure do, Bill. I know Bill Berkey was one of your all-time absolute favorites. So, that's a tough one. The Eagles now almost certainly will not be the number 1 seed in the NFC. That might not be the worst thing in the world, though. We'll talk about that. Penn State, 1 down, 3 more to go. And, Bill, I know you were very excited by that Christmas Day Sixers win up in Beantown.
Well, you know what? Anytime you beat Boston, I like it. So that's a good thing. Who saw that coming? It might show what they can do if they have all their players playing.
For sure, yep.
All right. Well, hey, we have a great guest returning tonight in the Hall of Famer, Ray Didinger, to talk all things Eagles.
We do indeed. Always a great time when Ray is with us. It's a little Christmas week gift to our countless fans and Ray's countless fans out there. So Ray is here. He's ready to roll. We got lots to talk about. Let's do it, Bill.
Yeah, I take it as a gift to us that Ray joins us at Christmas. So, Ray, welcome back to Philly Pressbox Radio.
Hey, Ray.
Guys, how are you? Good to see you again.
Likewise, Ray. Kudos for finding some time for us during the busy holiday season. We truly appreciate you. We do. Let's get right into it. Is there any major concern about the Eagles, given what happened down in Landover, Maryland last Sunday, when the Birds got banged up a bit and they played undisciplined football at several points of the game? Should we be worried?
Worried how?
Like this is a thing of, bad stuff to come. Like we all remember what happened last year. That's not going to happen again this year, is it?
Well, no, I think they're a better team
than
they were this time last year. I mean, statistically, you look at it. I mean, this time last year, their defense, I think, ranked 26th in the NFL, and they're a lot better than that. I mean, the physical part of it is a concern. I mean, you've gotten some key players injured here. And it's a question of when they come back and how healthy are they when they come back. You mentioned the number 1 seed is pretty much gone now, which wasn't true a couple weeks ago. They still had a shot at that. Now, realistically, they don't. And that's going to make it tougher for sure. I mean, they're going to have to play every week now. There's no bye. And if it comes down to them in Detroit for the NFC Championship, which could very well happen, now you're going to be playing it out there in the Dome. And it would have been a lot easier to play them here in the cold. So, the challenge is greater now. But, I mean, that's the way it works in the NFL. There's no easy road to the Super Bowl. There's not. I mean, everybody's going to have to overcome stuff. I mean, Lord knows the Lions have been overcoming stuff all year. I mean, look at all the injuries they've had, and they just keep rolling. So, I mean, Sunday was – what bothers you about Sunday is it's a game you had and you let get away. And that's what's hard about it. I mean, you go somewhere and you get thumped, the other team just comes out and beats you. well, that's one thing. But when you twice you had 14-point leads and let it get away, and you wind up losing with 6 ticks left on the clock, that's those are always tough.
Yeah. And speaking of the defense, Ray, seemed to be probably more miscommunications defensively, what it looked like in this game, and a lot more missed tackles in this game than what we've seen certainly during the winning streak.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think that's true. There were certainly on the winning touchdown, there was confusion. Yeah. I mean, if you go back and you look at that, right before the ball snapped, you have McCollum and Slay and Dean are all on one side of the field, like looking at each other and signaling. There's confusion. Bond and Blankenship don't seem to be on the same page. Right before the ball snapped, there's a lot of guys looking at each other, sort of pointing, and that's never a good sign. And so that's what happens there. And Crowder gets in behind Bond. Blankenship is a little late recognizing it coming over, and Daniels just throws a great pass, just right in the hole and bang, and you lose.
And the right tackle did move early.
Yeah, well, I mean I think kind of what happened. It looked to me the Daniels, he just wore the Eagles defense out. With all that running around, they were gassed. They were tired. I mean, you could see it. And running quarterbacks will do that to you. And especially the Eagles, they had, Davis got hurt and left the game. Sweat got hurt, left the game. Huff is not back yet. They were down to really just 2 edge rushers. And with Daniels running around and them chasing them around all day, by the fourth quarter, they were tired, and it showed. And when you have a tired defense, that's when you get missed tackles, and that's when you have missed assignments. Losing Gardner Johnson hurt them badly. I mean, one of the things about this team over this big long winning streak here is you never saw teams hitting deep balls down the middle on this defense. Just didn't happen. And if you go back and you look at Sunday's game, I mean, Daniels was hitting deep middle vertical routes in each of those scoring drives. I think if Gardner Johnson's out there, that probably doesn't happen. Yeah. But you take him out and you put an inexperienced kid like McCollum in there, all of a sudden that window goes from this to this. And so all of those things sort of snowballed on the Eagles, and they wind up losing a game that I think they all know they should have won.
Hey, Ray, the top priority this weekend, of course, is getting the win, whether it's with Jalen Hurts, Kenny Pickett, whoever had quarterback. But what about the Saquon Barkley situation? He's, 172 yards or so away from 2,000, the all-time record, a little higher than that. But how should the Eagles handle that? Do they care about him breaking 2,000 and getting the record? What if they lock it up this weekend, the division and the number 2 seed? How do you handle that in Week 18?
You don't. The records, forget it. They don't matter. And he has made a point of saying that all year. I mean, ever since he got on this run, all of a sudden the Eric Dickerson, all of a sudden 2000 came into view, and then Dickerson's record came into view. I mean, Barkley has been very consistent on saying, I don't care. We're here to do one thing. We're here to go to the Super Bowl and win it. And so I don't care about that. And I think that there's been proof of that over the course of the season. I mean, there have been times during the season when he's been out of the game in the fourth quarter, and he's been close to some sort of a milestone, like a career high or a personal best or something. And they've asked him, you want to go back? Do you want to go in and get it? He said, no. I mean, he's thinking one thing. I mean, he's accomplished a lot in his career, and he's pretty well established as one of the best running backs in the league. But he's never won, and that's what this was all about, was the move from New York to come to Philadelphia, was to have the opportunity to win a championship. And that was priority number one, and is still priority number one. So, I think regardless of what the numbers tell you over the next few weeks, I think Dickerson's record is a stretch at this point. I don't see him getting that. But the 2,000, yeah, maybe, but that's secondary to winning the games and getting into the playoffs, and then getting into the playoffs healthy enough that you can get in there and actually go on a run. I think that's what he's thinking about, and I think that's what everybody in that building's thinking about.
Hey, Ray, Jalen Hurts. I'm gonna try to be nice about this. The Philadelphia fans are a little fickle. Is that a good word to use in regards to Jalen Hurts? Jalen Hurts turns the ball over too much. He throws too many interceptions. He fumbles too much. Well, now he goes through 10 games. He does none of that. They win them all. Now Jalen Hurts is a lousy quarterback because he throws for 150 yards a game. It's all about the W's, and Jalen has made that very clear. Fair to Jalen at all? Just win the games.
Yeah, that's how I feel about it. Sure. Yeah. It's, if anybody questioned how valuable he was, they shouldn't be questioning it after Sunday's game. I mean, not that Pickett played badly, but the difference between Jalen Hurts and Kenny Pickett is like this.
Right.
Are we all in agreement on that?
Yeah.
I mean, if Hurts plays that game and Washington turns it over 5 times, the Eagles score 50.
Right.
I mean, and the game's over in the third quarter. But he didn't play, and so you wind up losing a game you probably should have won. But, I mean, if anybody had this idea that Jalen Hurts is a game manager or that's all he really is, well, I think we saw that wasn't so. I mean, you take him out of the game and everything changes. I mean, as great a year as Saquon Barkley has had, and as great a player as Saquon Barkley is, you saw what happened when Hurts was not on the field. When all of a sudden, Dan Quinn just changes his defense, just changes everything, and he just slams the line of scrimmage and just brings everybody down, and just basically, we're concentrating on one thing. Okay, we're stopping number 26. Okay, and if Pickett can beat us throwing the ball, good for him. But we're not letting 26 beat us now. Mm-hmm. And so you saw what happened. I think if anybody had any questions about how important Jalen Hurts is to the overall success of this football team and their chances of going on and maybe winning the Super Bowl, I think you saw the flip side to that on Sunday. He went out of the game and it became a totally different game. And to your point about what's a quarterback's role, how do you judge quarterbacks? I remember doing an interview with when I was at NFL Films with Terry Bradshaw. And Terry Bradshaw, before he became a talking head on television, was a pretty good quarterback. Won 4 Super Bowls in 4 tries. And asked him about how he compared himself to other quarterbacks, what he thought about how he was perceived in the pantheon of Super Bowl quarterbacks. And he said, I don't care. He said, if you look at it, and it's true, if you look at the all-time quarterback rankings that are done by passer efficiency ratio or however they call it, quarterback efficiency rating, or that whole tablet that they rate quarterbacks, Bradshaw's like 88th or something. All of these, David Craig and Jimmy Garoppolo and all these other guys are higher than he is, which is sort of a farce. But if you just go by the statistics, and Bradshaw said, I don't care about any of that. I never cared about any of that. I didn't care. Completion percentage, average yards per attempt, quarterback. He said, no, I don't care about any of that. A quarterback in the NFL has to do 2 things. He has to score points and he has to win games. Score points, win games. Bingo. End of story. Okay. Right. That's how you judge quarterbacks. And he said, I know other guys had gaudier numbers than I did. And I know other guys had higher quarterback ratings than I did. And I know if you look at the all-time list of quarterbacks, I ain't anywhere near the top guys. And I don't care.
Just show me them rings.
I won 4 Super Bowls and never lost one. So as far as I'm concerned, that's all I ever really set out to do. And I always just thought that really boils quarterback play down to its essence. Score points, win games. That's what a quarterback's out there to do. And by that standard, and it's not a bad standard, you'd have to say that Jalen Hurts scores pretty high.
Hey, Ray, I want to make sure we talk to you about this. We lost an Eagles great early on Christmas morning, the legendary Bill Bergey. You covered his entire 7-year Eagles career, 1974 to 1980. What do you remember most about number 66?
I remember all aspects of him. I remember him as a player, and I remember him as the guy I got to know off the field. And they were equally impressive. Bill was a great player, a truly great player. I mean, he was. In my view, he was Dick Butkus. He was the same kind of player. A big man for his position. Bill played at 245, which is a big man for a linebacker, and yet he had tremendous agility and a lot of lateral speed. I mean, Bill everybody thinks of him as being the ultimate stuffer of the running game and the guy that could blow it up at the line of scrimmage, and he sure could. But he also, he played the whole field. He could play sideline to sideline. And you look at his I think he had like 26 career interceptions. He could do everything you wanted a linebacker to do. And he was, as soon as he came to Philadelphia, he changed the defense. He was a high draft pick of the Bengals and was a really good player in Cincinnati. And the Bengals really just didn't want to pay him what he was worth. The Bengals have always been a pretty cheap organization. So he was coming to the end of his rookie contract and he wanted more money. And his agent was sort of threatening that he was going to take Bill to the World Football League at that time. And Bill's brother Bruce had already signed with the World Football League. So Paul Brown thought that he was going to lose him for nothing, that he was going to jump to the World League. So he was willing to trade him. And the Eagles jumped in and got him, and they paid a stiff price for him. They gave up 2 number 1 picks plus several other picks. It was a big package, but they felt like, they had Roman Gabriel then, Carmichael then. They had a good offense, but they needed a defense, and they needed a guy to be the focal point of that defense. And Bergey at that point was clearly the guy. And so they made this big deal and paid a stiff price, and they brought him in, and he was great from day one. He really was. My most vivid memory of Bill was his first home game as an Eagle, first regular season home game as an Eagle. The Eagles were playing the Cowboys at the Vet on a Monday night. And it was Bill's first home game and regular season home game in front of the Philadelphia fans. And of course, it's a Monday night game against the Cowboys. You know what the energy is like in the building. You know what that feels like. And Bill was just super psyched to play that game because he knew that Paul Brown and all the Cincinnati people were going to be watching on Monday Night Football. So Bill, who was a very emotional guy anyway, was super, super emotional. And it was the Cowboys and Eagles weren't really a fair match back then. The Cowboys were really into their whole America's game thing, and they were really good. They had Staubach and all those guys. And the Eagles weren't very good. But Bergey got out there, and Bergey just played like he was on fire that night. He must have had 20 tackles. He was all over the field. And it was very close in the fourth quarter. And in the fourth quarter, the Cowboys have the ball like the 1 yard line, and they're getting ready to punch in the touchdown that's going to seal the game. And they hand off to a kid named Doug Dennison, who was a young running back from Kutztown. And when you first see him take the ball, there's this hole that opens up. And it looks like he's going to walk into the end zone. And he gets into the hole, and all of a sudden, here comes 66. Like a tractor trailer coming down 95. and he hits Dennison in the hole. The ball pops loose, takes a couple of hops into the hands of Joe Big Bird Lavender, the cornerback, who takes it 96 yards down the sideline for a touchdown, and the Eagles wind up winning the game. And talk about an introduction to Philadelphia. I mean, all the people were waiting to see what this Berge guy was all about, and they sure saw that night. And I thought the greatest quote that came out of it was after the game, Tom Landry said, "I thought there were 11 of him out there," talking about Berge. And that was kind of the way it looked. And the fact of the matter is, I mean, that's one game, but he pretty much played his entire career in Philadelphia just like that. He was a great player. I mean, he's in the Eagles Hall of Fame, you know, and in my view, he should be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. I think he was in that strata of great middle linebackers. He was definitely one of them.
You know, Ray, it's funny you mentioned about the Cowboys. Some years ago, I was at a fundraiser event where it was a long weekend type of deal with Tony Dorsett. Spent the afternoon hanging out with a bunch of guys, Tony Dorsett being one of them, at a poolside with a few beverages floating around and so forth. Tony Dorsett told me Bill Berge was not only the toughest football player he ever played against, he was the best football player he ever played against. High praise.
High praise indeed, and well earned. Bill was all of that. I mean, I think the sad part is that when he first came to the Eagles over that period of 74, 5, 6, 7, the Eagles were not very good. I mean, their defense was just not very good. I mean, he was playing with a lot of guys who just weren't very good, and he was just great. I mean, he was all over the field, and he was playing. I mean, he was the defense for 5 years. Then 78, right when Vermeil has now finally built this team that has a chance to actually do something. You know, he's drafted Carl Hairston and Dennis Harrison, and you know, you're starting to get some guys on that team, Jerry Robinson. You're starting to get some guys on that team that can actually play, and you're starting to put a defense kind of around Bill. Was when he blew out his knee. Yeah. And he came back from it, but when he came back at that point, he was older. And now he was really, his knee never really fully bounced back. And so right when that team was ready to take off, you know, Bill wasn't the same player. So in the years when he was at his prime, the team just wasn't good enough, and he was kind of overshadowed. And most Sundays he was playing 1-on-11. And then right at the point where they finally had a team and he could have really taken over, he gets injured. And, you know, he played it out. He played those last several years and always gave it his best. But even he admitted at the end, I just wasn't the same player anymore. And I wish he would have had an opportunity to be the younger Bill Berge playing on that team on the way to a Super Bowl. That would have really been something to see. Bill's last game was Super Bowl 15. Yeah, that was it. Super Bowl 15 was it. He wanted to make that one run at a championship. You know, he had never been in a Super Bowl, obviously. And that was what he always wanted. I mean, he had this great career, you know, Pro Bowls every year, all kinds of honors. But his dream was, everybody's dream was to win a Super Bowl. He got there the last year, and they lose to Oakland. And when it was over, you know, Bill sort of acknowledged, I think this is it for me. And a month later, they had the announcement that he was retiring, and he walked away. But I mean, talk about the great linebackers in the history of this franchise. I mean, it's Bednarik, and will always be Bednarik. But if you ask me who the next best one was, I'll tell you it was Bill Berge. Yeah.
Hey, Ray, we got a couple other things we got to get to quickly. Tommy and Me, your terrific play that we first saw way back in 2016, I believe, continues to live on. It's back for another run in January. You just told us it's going to be extended. So what are the specifics?
The specifics are these, that the Tommy and Me, as you said, Chet, started in 2016, and here we are going into 2025, and it's still running. I mean, it's like the Les Mis of football, this play. But this year we're going to be going to a new home, and it's going to be the People's Light Theater out in Malvern, a really beautiful theater. I've been out there to see other shows, and they want Tommy and Me now. So we're going to be going there very soon. I mean, we open rehearsal right after New Year's, and we open at People's Light on January 7th. And you're right when you said that they're extending it. The ticket sales have been so good that the theater has already extended it for another week. So we will now open on January 7th, and we will run through February the 1st. So we're pretty much going to be the whole month out there. So if you have not seen Tommy and Me, or if you have seen it but you want to come back and see it again, it's a great opportunity. We're out there for a solid month. You can go to the People's Light website and order your tickets there. And we're going to have a really good time. I mean, we're going to have, we have, after every show, we have one of those Q&A sessions with the audience that people seem to like. And we're going to have Michael Barkan's going to come out and host one. Tommy McDonald's kids, Chris, Tommy Jr., and Patricia, they're all going to come out and take part in the Q&As. And I think it's going to be a great time. And Tom Teddy, who's in that photograph, actually, the actor at the podium there, that's Tom Teddy. And he's been playing older Tommy right from day one. And People's Light is his theater. That's his home base. That's his home field. And he's been part of the People's Light Theater Company ever since it started, like 30 years ago. And he's always wanted to bring Tommy and Me to that stage because that's his stage. So now he's going to finally get a chance to do that. And I know he's really looking forward to it. So if you want to come out and join us, it's all next month. People's Light Theater out in Malvern. Just go to their website and order your tickets. And I guarantee you'll come out and have a good time.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I will throw out there, Ray, the first time I've seen it twice. Once was with Chet, my second time. First time was with my wife in Delaware. And she went because I asked her to go.
Right.
She don't care about football, or one thing or the other. But at the end, she said, "You know what? This is a great story," because it's a great story. It's not necessarily a football story. It's all tied together. But for those that are listening, watching, that think, could I take my wife? You certainly could take your kids, but can I take my wife? Absolutely, absolutely. It's a great show.
Yeah, I'm glad you pointed that out, Bill, because that is something that comes up all the time. When we do the after show Q&As with the audience, there's always somebody in the audience, and usually it's a woman, usually it's a wife, who's come with her husband who's wearing his Eagles jersey. And she says, I'm not a football fan. I don't care about the game. I never heard of this gentleman. She said, but I love this story. And I think that's really the heart of it. I think that's why we're still doing it after all these years, is that people just identify with the humanity of the story and this idea of a little boy and his hero, and how they just kind of meet and travel life's journey together for 40 years. What starts out with a request for an autograph turns into a 40-year friendship. And it's a pretty amazing story and true. And yes, it's about football, but it's about a whole lot more than just football. And if people come out and see it, I think they'll understand.
Ray, see if we can do this in 2 minutes that we have left with you. It's winter. It was very cold earlier this week. We had some light snow, and my car has a crack in the windshield. All that made me think of something that happened to you many years ago when you had a very interesting drive home from Giant Stadium. Can you tell our viewers that story, because it is just bizarre?
Well, and I'll try to compress it into 2 minutes. Yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, I went up to Giant Stadium to cover an Eagles-Jets game. It wasn't even a Giants game, it was a Jets game. And it was late in the year, and came out after the game, after writing my story, 4 hours after the game. I'm the only car left in the parking lot, and the windshield has been broken out of my car completely. I walked out to my car, and there was glass all around me, glass in the front seat, and fans had just Giants fans or Jets fans had just broken had broken my windshield. I had no windshield. I'm not talking about like a little hole in my windshield. I had no windshield.
Yeah.
Security guy came by, saw me, and went around the back, looked at my license plate, and said, "Well, you got Pennsylvania tags." And I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, don't you understand? If you come up here for an Eagles game with Pennsylvania tags, people are going to assume you're an Eagles fan. And of course, they're going to trash your car." "Oh, thank you, sir. I appreciate that. So then, I mean, it's like 3 o'clock in the morning, and I have to drive home on the Jersey Turnpike in December in what actually turned into a sleet storm on the way home with no windshield.
Wow. I hadn't heard that one.
That was by the time I got to my exit and pulled up. This was back in the days when they still had toll takers.
Yeah.
I pulled up to the toll booth, and the guy looked at. I mean, I looked like Frosty the Snowman. I had driven that for an hour and a half through a snowstorm with no protection whatsoever. I was covered with ice, and
wow.
I've told Chet this before, but I actually turned the windshield wipers on. So I got to force the habit and realized, this really works much better when you have a windshield.
I love that story. I just had to hear it again.
Oh, that's great. Hey, Ray, before we let you go,
one more thing. We got something special here. Ray, with this visit to our show, you have just joined a very, very exclusive club. That's right, Ray. You and Bleeding Green Nation's Brandon Lee Gouton are now the only two guests who have made 25 visits to our show during our 10.5-year history. Try to contain your excitement.
Well, I feel very honored. I remember the first time you asked me to do it.
Yeah.
We were up at
Sandy's in Langhorne.
Sandy's in Langhorne. When you approached me and said, we're putting this show together. Would you be willing to come on and be a guest? And I said, of course. And so we started doing it, and here we are still doing it. And 25 shows. I mean, we've covered some really good stuff. I mean, we've won a few championships in that time. So hopefully maybe we'll get to do it again.
That's right. Hey, Ray, I have to ask you before we let you go. You got a lot going on. You're out in the public a lot. Can people come see you? You still selling your books and doing all those things?
Oh, sure. Oh, yeah. As I said, Tommy and Me next month, People's Light. You can go to People's Light and order your tickets. But beyond that, Glenn Macnell and I and Joe Conklin have put together a show called The Greatest Moments in Philadelphia Sports History.
It's great.
And I know Chet's come out and seen it. And it's really a lot of fun. We've done it a couple of times, and we're going to do it again in April at the Colonial Theater out in Phoenixville. And then we're going to do it again in October at the Uptown Theater in Westchester. So if you want to come out and relive the greatest moments in Philadelphia sports history with Glenn, me, and Joe Conklin and the many voices of Joe Conklin, come on out. I guarantee you'll have a good time.
Fantastic. Well, Ray, we appreciate you joining us for the 25th time. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year to you and your family.
Merry Christmas. Happy New Year to you guys, too. And hopefully we'll get to do this 25 more times before we're all done.
I hope so.
There you go.
Ray.
Thanks, Ray.
You're the best.
Take care, guys. Bye-bye.
All right. Hey, Chet, as we've been talking about over recent months, Philly Pressbox Radio is now part of a new podcast network, the STT Sports Network, as in Set the Trends. It's a network set up by our pal Phil Stiefel, host of the terrific Trending in the AM show that you can find every weekday morning on the STT Sports Network YouTube channel. I believe you were on there just the other day, Chet. Check out Phil and be sure to subscribe to the channel. Phil's show is on there. Now, so is ours. Yep, you can find Philly Pressbox Radio there in addition to our own YouTube channel and on our Facebook page. That hasn't changed. Again, it's the STT Sports Network, setting the trend for what sports talk should be. Hey, Chet, it is New Year's week. What is going on over at the Irish Rover Station House? And it's also Dallas week.
It is Dallas week. Regarding the Irish Rover, well, first of all, they had another terrific ugly sweater party at the Rover. That is in the books. That was last week. A good time had by all. You saw the pictures. Otherwise, you'll find great dinner specials at the Irish Rover every Thursday through Sunday. Trivia every Wednesday evening. Always 24 beers on tap. Great bartenders at the Irish Rover, by the way. And, if you happen to see Cassie there this weekend, wish her well and tip her well, too, because Cassie is getting married on New Year's Eve. The Irish Rover Station House is on Bellevue Avenue in Langhorne. That's Bellevue Avenue in Langhorne, and on the web at IrishRoversStationhouse.com. And with that, I give you the great Merrill Reese, if I can find him. Here we go.
Hi, football fans. This is Merrill Reese, and you're listening to Bill and Chet on Philly Pressbox Radio. It's good!
Yes, it is.
How'd you like that story of Ray driving home?
Oh, fantastic. I never heard that. That's great. We've heard a lot of stories from Ray over the times, and I thought we had the good ones, but that was good. That was a good one.
I actually have 2 cracks in my windshield that have gotten worse over the last year and a half that I've had them. So I said, well, you know what? I got to get this fixed. So I got a guy coming out tomorrow to fix my front windshield, and it made me think of that Ray story. And yeah, it was just great.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because my truck that was up in Delaware while I was up there, it got a cracked windshield too, and it's
there you go,
all over the place. Hey, so let's stay on football for just a minute. College football.
All right.
As we said, Penn State blew out SMU in frigid Happy Valley. Boise State in the Fiesta Bowl. New Year's Eve, Chet, a chance to reach Final Four. I know that you kind of like to go out sometimes.
Yeah.
You going to be watching football on New Year's Eve, or you going to be out somewhere with one eye on the TV at a distance?
I'm still finalizing my plans, but last year, and I may do the same thing this year, I went to a local Irish pub, not the Irish Rover. I'm sorry, guys. There's one very, very close to my home called Tierna Nog in Trenton, and they do an Irish New Year's thing. So it starts at 5, and at 7 o'clock, they ring all the bells because 7 o'clock our time is midnight in Dublin. So that's when they actually celebrate 7 p.m. New Jersey time. So I'm probably going to go there for at least a little while. And then unless somebody gives me a better plan, I'm going to come home and watch Penn State.
Yeah, $330 a ticket for the Fiesta Bowl, Chet.
Whoa. That's actually not terrible, I guess, right?
I guess. I know some guys that are going out there. I know a couple guys that passed because the next one, if they win, Notre Dame, Georgia winner at the Orange Bowl in Miami. Those will probably be $450 a ticket, I think. But
at least.
Yeah, so that will be it's going to be interesting as we get to the Final Four. What do you make of how this thing is played out with Boise State and Arizona State being in there? You good?
Well, I mean, let's face it. The first weekend was not great. Some of those teams probably didn't really belong. The college football folks may want to reconsider how they're doing this with the 12 teams. They were all routes. They were all not great games. But as far as Penn State, hey, a dominating win, we'll take that. Nearly 107,000 folks braving the frosty weather out at Beaver Stadium. The Nittany Lions defense was particularly impressive. 2 defensive touchdowns. So it was a nice drama-free victory. And maybe we'll get another one this weekend. Penn State's favored by, 11 points or something?
Yeah, it keeps creeping up a little bit. It started out about 8.5 and went to 9, and now it's up in double digits.
I don't know a whole lot about Boise State beyond their incredible running back, the Heisman Trophy runner-up, Ashton Genty, who is really, really good. I watched some of the highlights of him. Yeah. I don't know if you saw his numbers, Bill. 347 carries this year, nearly 2,500 yards on the ground, an average 7.3 yards per rush, 29 touchdowns on the ground, and 1 more as a receiver for good measure. So he's going to be somebody to watch.
Yeah, he's real good. He's real good.
Obviously.
You know, what they're going to have to do is try to get him taken care of and let somebody else beat him from the quarterback position. Offensive line, obviously, he can block for him, and he can break long runs, and that can blow games up. So they're going to have to do a good job with him.
What do you think about these other games, Bill? Could be some good ones. I'm sure you'll watch every single one of them, but which ones are you looking forward to?
Actually, the only one that really doesn't have me wound up is the Texas-Arizona State game. If Ohio State comes out and plays like they did against Tennessee, they could beat anybody.
Yeah.
They lost to Oregon by 1 point earlier. Notre Dame, Georgia on paper, man, what a game that's going to be. Georgia quarterback is out, so they're going with their backup quarterback there. I think it's going to be some pretty good football.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm actually looking forward to watching some of those. I know Notre Dame, Georgia is probably going to get boffo ratings everywhere because a lot of Georgia fans everywhere and certainly Notre Dame fans all across the country.
Yep, absolutely. Looking forward to it. You know how I like that college football.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Hey, speaking of winning, Chet, how about the Sixers? They won 3 of 4 before last night. They go play the first place Celtics and knock them off. So they've won 4 out of 5. Embiid, George, Maxey, all were in the lineup. Sixers got a win. George was the least of the contributors, but big games for Maxey and Embiid.
Let me say, this win was potentially huge because they blew an early 16-point lead, then went up by a dozen, nearly blew that. They hung on. Joel Embiid, a perfect 18 for 18 at the free throw line. I think the whole team was perfect at the line. It was a big win, perhaps, because it showed some folks that, when Embiid, Tyrese Maxey, and George are all in the lineup and healthy, they are a team to be reckoned with. And, Bill, I'm sure you check the standings daily. The Sixers now are 11-17, which is not great, certainly, but as you've said, they've won, 4 out of 5, I think 7 out of 10. They're just one game now out of the play-in group and only 3.5 games out of the 6th place Miami Heat. And there's still nearly 2/3 of the season remaining. So a lot of time left in the season. And if they stay healthy, they're certainly going to be a playoff team.
Yeah, well, they got to get healthy. They got to be consistently healthy. And they keep losing more guys. Some of those behind the other three.
KJ Martin now out for a couple of weeks. So,
right.
Yeah, they can never seem to have everybody healthy. That's unfortunate. But if those big three can stay healthy, and I know that's a big if, especially when we're talking about Joel, they can certainly do some damage.
Yeah, well,
in a good way.
We hope. Yeah, right. We hope so. It almost seems like they could be competitive with 2. And then win with 3. They're certainly better now that they've had Maxey and George on the court together more than a few times.
Yeah, so stay healthy, guys, please.
Absolutely. Hey, Chet, what's going on with the best tailgaters in Philadelphia? Bob Cavanaugh and the gang at Cavs Philly Tailgates.
Well, Cav has been cooking up a terrific catering business for nearly 35 years, known best for their tailgate parties. Cavs is a 3-time winner of Philly Tailgate's Jack Daniels Great American Tailgate Party Contest and a past winner of the Philly Daily News Tailgate Award. Cavs also does corporate events and parties, you name it. You know this too. Cav does tailgates before all of the Birds games at the Link. They have, of course, that game Sunday against the Cowboys. That's, by the way, not a 4:25 game anymore. It's 1 o'clock. So the tailgating will be starting, I believe, at 9 a.m. or so. So, that'll be fun. And then you have the final game against the Giants on January 5th. There'll be a tailgate before that one as well. Check the website, phillytailgates.com, for pricing and more info about upcoming events. And if you have questions, you can email them at cavscatering@verizon.net. Cavs Philly Tailgates is the way to go, Bill.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And before you know it, spring training will be on the way, and we'll be seeing a lot of Cavs down in Florida, too.
I'm going to get down there in March. I'll be there right around March 15th or so. I don't know the specifics, but I will be there right before St. Patrick's Day.
There you go. Looking forward to that. All right, let's get to our weekly picks. I think we all had a pretty good week again last week, Chet. Only 2 regular season games left. We have Boop, Bob Patrone Jr.'s picks ready to go.
Well, yes and no. He did send them to me, but I forgot to print them out. So I'm going to find them on my phone. Talk for 20 seconds while I find the picks.
Well, I can't really talk to you, Chet, because I didn't make my margin of victory selection yet. So I don't really have anything to say.
We're on the ball, kids. Hey, it's okay. I do have Boop's picks.
It is the holidays. It is the holiday season, Chet. So,
man, it's been a busy week. A lot of family stuff, which is great, but it cut into my, prep time for our show. But we will get through this. All right. First of all, let me tell you about this past week, Bill. We were all actually 3-2, and that is because we all had the exact same picks last weekend for all 5 games. So that means you have maintained your 1-game lead over Boop. I stay 7 games out. I'm pretty much eliminated. I'm not going to make up 7 games in 2 weeks because that's 10 games. So not going to happen, but I'll catch you guys in the playoffs.
All right. Well, here's our games. We've added 2. Green Bay at Minnesota. Packers. Well, you and I went back and forth whether the Packers are favored or the Vikings are favored. I have them at -1, and you have them at Minnesota -1.
Yep.
And Detroit at San Francisco. The Lions are -3.5 on that. Let's jump to those first. Let's get to Green Bay at Minnesota. Let's just call it even.
All right. Yeah, somebody's favored by 1, or it's a pick 'em. It's going to be tight. Let's see what Boop says. Boop will decide it. Packers at Vikings. Green Bay is staring down the barrel of being the most dangerous 6th seed since Danny Manning's Kansas team in 1988. Where does Boop come up with this stuff? Boop is picking the Packers. So am I. I'm taking Green Bay to win on the road.
I'm taking Minnesota to win, although I really like the way Green Bay's playing. Minnesota's playing good, too. Not the strength of schedule, probably, that Green Bay has, but, they're winning games.
I'm looking forward to that game. That is the 4:25 game now. The Eagles were shifted back, and that's going to be a good one.
Yes. All right, Monday Night Football, Detroit at San Francisco. The Lions are -3.5. They're all banged up, but so is San Francisco.
Yeah, Boop says, this looked like one of the games of the year when the schedule came out. Now, not so much. Right, Bill? I don't know what he means by that, but okay. Boop is picking the Lions. I'm also picking the Lions because San Francisco just can't get it done anymore.
Yeah, I'm going with the Lions as well. That gets us to the East. The Colts visit the Giants. The Colts are -7.5. Colts actually have an outside chance of making those AFC playoffs. That would be really wild.
Yeah. Boop says New York, the Giants, have lost 10 games in a row for the first time in franchise history. Do I hear 11? Apparently Boop does. Boop is picking the Colts. Yeah, you got to pick the Colts.
I'm picking the Colts. All right. Another really good game with playoff implications. Atlanta at Washington. The Commanders are -4.5. Atlanta's got to win.
That is the Sunday night game, by the way. Boop says this is a must-win if Atlanta wants to hold on to its NFC South lead. Not going to happen. Boop is picking the Commanders. I am too. They impressed me with what they did against the Eagles this past weekend. I think they're for real now that Jaden Daniels seems to be, pretty healthy. They're getting McLaurin involved quite a bit. And I think Washington wants to, show that they are legit.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Commanders too. Played with a lot of emotion. Dan Quinn had them ready to go in that Eagles game. That was a make or break game for them. They showed up big, played really well. Got to give it to them.
Atlanta played well, this past weekend, but who'd they beat? The Giants, am I right?
Right.
Yeah, and they had the rookie quarterback in their Penix, but now there's, tape out on him, so I think Washington will be ready for him. I'm taking the Commanders. All right, one more game, and we know what that one is.
Eagles-Cowboys. Eagles -8, and has that gone up a little bit even?
I've seen -9 most places, yeah.
Yeah, and that kind of surprises me because of the quarterback question with the Eagles.
Exactly. That seems like it would be a Cowboys line because of the size of the line, but then, if you think about it, that means it's probably really an Eagles line. The way that works. So I don't know. Boop says this would be just the second time, 2013 being the first, that a win over the Cowboys all by itself clinched an NFC East title for the Birds. In 1980, an 8-point loss secured them the tiebreaker, net points in division games. That's right. The Eagles won in 1980, even though they lost a game to the Cowboys. In 1988, they needed a Giants loss to the Jets at the same time. I don't know what all that means, but Boop is picking the Eagles. So am I. I don't know if they cover that 9-point spread, but the Eagles win the game.
Yeah, Dallas played really good the other night.
It really did.
Yeah, but the game scares me just a little bit, but especially with the Eagles quarterback situation. But I'm going Birds, and I'm going big game for Saquon Barkley if Jalen Hurts is playing.
Yeah. Of course, the opponents, the Cowboys, will be ready for Barkley because they saw what Washington did to Barkley in the second half. So that'll be a concern. I hope Pickett can play at least because a lot of people want Tanner McKee in there, but I'm not so sure that he's ready. So
you don't want him in there till he's in there. Then when he's in there, you wish he wasn't in there.
Exactly.
He just doesn't have enough experience.
And we'd love to see Hurts, be healthy, but it doesn't sound like that's going to happen. He did not practice today again.
PJ says, I didn't know this. CeeDee Lamb is out for the season with that shoulder.
I did not know that.
I didn't know that. I know he has been banged up with that thing for weeks and been playing with it. I guess now that they're eliminated, he's packing it in. Well, that's a big deal.
Did you make your margin of victory pick yet?
Well, I think. Go ahead and put up the graphics. So
All right, let's go to the standings. The margin of victory pool, kind of like a survivor pool, except you don't get eliminated if your one surefire pick loses. That's good because we've all lost at least 2 games this season. You do get points if that one surefire pick wins, the points equating to the margin of victory. We all made great picks again in Week 16. Boop and Bill both getting 34 points thanks to the Packers' rout of the Saints. Yeah, shutout on Monday night. I added 27 via Atlanta's beatdown of the Giants. So I had a good week too. I'm still in first, but my lead has shrunk just a bit, as you can see. And I have not yet clinched a second straight title. I got 228. Bill, you got 205. So a great pick this week by you and a crappy one by me. You could be right there.
I've got a great pick. So go ahead. Put it up there.
I got mine.
I got the ace in the hole.
I'm not changing it.
I had the ace in the hole. I was just waiting to see to check that I hadn't used it.
Let's see what Boop has to say. Boop is picking, the Rams over the Cardinals. Interesting. I don't know if I'd go that route, but Boop is taking the Rams over the Cardinals. I am taking, Bill, Indianapolis over the Giants because the Giants always lose.
No, I'm with you on that. But guess what I got, pal?
What do you got?
The Buffalo Bills against
Come on, you
the
didn't
New
pick
York
Buffalo.
Jets.
Let's see.
That's why I had to look.
How did you not pick Buffalo yet?
Because I was waiting until the last week against the Jets.
Ooh. And who's Buffalo playing?
The Jets.
Oh, that should be a good one.
And hopefully that doesn't get a blizzard or something up at Buffalo, because that changes everything.
So you take a Buffalo, I'm taking Indy. We both are rooting against those New York teams this weekend. So
that's anyway. That goes without saying.
Hey, speaking of Boop, a reminder to check out his website where you can get the daily listings of TV, sports of interest, and all sorts of other fun stuff. That website being boopstats.com. Boopstats.com. What's with this, Bill? You need to be, Bob, I used to like you.
You know what? It's probably all of this you've been giving yourself. Fans don't like that.
By the way, I was doing family stuff today, and among the family was my nephew Chris, and he said this: "I'm related to greatness." I think he's referring to me, Bill. How about that?
I think he must have been talking to Ray Diddy or somebody else. Come on, Chris. Really? We have trouble getting that head on the screen as it is.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. All right, Chet. Great guest tonight at Ray Didinger. We have a New Year's schedule change as well. When we coming back, and who's coming to Philly Pressbox Radio next week?
Well, I'm glad you asked. Let's see. Do I have an answer for that? Oh, yeah, here we go. Next week, Bill, we are starting off the new year on Thursday, January 2nd, 2025, and we actually have two great guests joining us for that one. This guy joins us pretty much every year right around the turn of the calendar. That is Frank Fitzpatrick, the former Inquirer columnist, making his annual visit with us. So always good to talk to Frankie Fitz. And we also have a first-time visitor with us. He is the president-elect of the Philadelphia Sports Writers Association, a guy by the name of Mike Shute. And he'll visit to talk about the upcoming PSWA annual banquet, which is, I think, January 16th, when greats like Charlie Manuel, Kyle Schwarber, and the old Philadelphia Stars will be among those honored. So I'll be there on Thursday, January 16th at the hotel down in Cherry Hill, and we'll talk to Mike Shute about that. And, Bill, I got a note here from somebody who is asking for a shout-out. And I don't usually, go to these requests, but what the hell? My buddy Alan says, hey, please give me a shout-out. When is the next time you guys are going to do a show on site? He has seen us a couple of times at the Irish Rover Station House. I don't know when that's going to happen, but we would love to do that again in 2025, and Absolutely. We just may.
Yep. We'll have to make a plan to do it. Probably in the summer and the fall. Ray brought up about doing that Philly sports show in Westchester in October. Kind of popped into my head that might be a good time to make a trip and tie some things together.
Oh, we didn't get to talk about the Phillies this evening, but they did make a couple of moves over the past week or so. They inked outfielder Max Kepler to a one-year deal, and they traded with Miami for this guy, a left-handed starting pitcher, Jesus Luzardo, who will presumably be the Phil's number 5 starter until they decide Andrew Painter is officially ready to join the rotation, or maybe longer. Somebody will get hurt or whatever. So neither move is earth-shattering, but positive moves nonetheless, or at least we hope that's the case.
A lot of people are talking about that Luzardo trade as a steal. That he is a legitimate, maybe even a 3.
His numbers weren't great this past year, but, they seem to like him. He's only 27. Yep. Left-handers, frequently will get better with age as they get closer to 30. So, hopefully they'll get lucky.
And I don't know if that means anything for Ranger Suarez one way or the other, since supposedly they're thinking about dealing him. At least that's what the rumors come out. But we'll see. We're going to skip the Flyers. They lost 4 out of 5. They're on break until Saturday. They got to get it together. Mitchkov's having some problems, Chet. He hasn't scored in about 2 weeks.
I know.
Even an assist.
So, Bill, we mentioned the passing of Bill Berge. We also lost Ricky Henderson a few days ago. That's on top of various other prominent sports figures we lost this year. And we are short on time. So in the next few days, I'm going to put out a special little piece, as I often do at the end of the year, on the many memorable athletes and coaches that have left us over the past year. The likes of O.J. Simpson, Roman Gabriel, Jerry West, Chet Walker, and, of course, Pete Rose and Johnny Gaudreau and his brother. So watch for that in the days ahead. But let's focus on something more positive, Bill. That is Philly Pressbox Radio's 2024. We had quite a year, pal.
Yes, we did. Ton of great guests, as always. I think we certainly didn't miss a week. So we had 52, if not 53 shows this year, depending on how the calendar fell. I don't remember, but did our live show, had our 500th with great guests. Joe Watson there with us, Jim Jackson.
Speaking of the Devils.
And Lou Nolan. That was great. That was a great event. So, we joined the STT Sports Network. That's fun. That's going to get nothing but bigger and better with Phil. Looking forward to continuing into our 11th year.
As you said, we did not take a single week off. No load management here, folks.
Nope.
None of that crap.
No injuries. Well, we played through a few injuries, I think.
Yeah, we did. And because we did a little teaser show before show number 500, one that we called 499.5, and then a special Philly Sports Hall of Fame wrap-up show. So we actually did 54 shows this calendar year, including tonight. We celebrated our 10th anniversary May 1st with a show that featured, Ray Didinger. And we did show number 500, as you just saw, with these guys at the Irish Rover. That was a blast. And while we were there, we got notice that we had a little package that had come our way. And it's these great plaques from our buddy Joe Howe in commemoration of our 500th show. So that was very, very nice of Joe. I really wanted to put together a collage or slideshow or something showing off all the great guests we had this year. But with the holidays and family obligations and whatnot, time just didn't permit. But we had first-time guests, including authors Eric Gray and Joe Zagorski, singer Chuck Brodsky, comedian Steve Cooper, boxer Tim Witherspoon. He was great. Beer connoisseur Andrew Colligan, sports writer and radio host Bob Cooney just a couple of weeks ago. Man, Bob was terrific. We had former Philly Matt Stairs and former Flyer Brad Marsh as first-timers. We also had return visits from the likes of Glenn Macnow and Ray Diddy, Mark Eckel, Bill Meltzer, Bob Angelo, Kai Carlin, Jason Stark, Keith Compay. I could go on and on and on. Tom McGinnis, Tom McCarthy, blah, blah, blah. You know what's great, though, is when we have former players or coaches on with us, and we've had quite a few. In addition to Matt Stairs, we've had the likes of Tommy Green, Steve Jeltz, Kevin Stalker, Joe Watson, who you mentioned, Brian Propp, Arkansas Fred Barnett, and, Hall of Fame coach Dick Vermeil. And then at the Philly Sports Hall of Fame, we got short interviews with Phil Martelli and Jameer Nelson. And, Bill, with you as my cameraman, the big piece, Ryan Howard. So that was a lot of fun. I know, Phil Stiefel was on our show twice now that we're with him on the STT Sports Network. So we are growing together. We are 10 2/3 years in and moving on through year 11 and soon to be year 12. And we're having a blast.
And I was on Action News with the big piece when he put up on my picture on there. Yeah,
that's right.
And of course, we had our reliable guys too, as you mentioned, Ray Diddy, Kevin Riley is always with us. Some of those guys that have been with us from the start. And Jet, what's really kind of
nephew
cool.
Chris throwing out some love to you too. Look at that. He knows the great Bill Furman. So there
you go, Chris. I thank you. I'm sure Chet didn't tell you to say that, so I know
I did not. Trust me.
It yourself. Thanks, Chris. But the other thing is when we get to see these guys now, Chet, they know us. They seem to like us. They keep coming back, and it makes it fun for us to deal with these guys because they're good people and they all like what we like, talking Philly sports.
And yes, we had Fat Mez making a return visit this year too. I have a long list. I just didn't have time to mention everybody, but 54 shows, a lot of unique guests, and we're going to have more for you in 2025. So we can't wait.
All right. You ready to wrap it up?
Wrap it up.
Let's wrap it up. Let's thank tonight's special guest, Ray Didinger, our sponsors, the Irish Rover Station House, Cavs Philly Tailgate, PPCC 118 Raz Room. For Jim Chet Chesko, this is Bill Furman. We hope you enjoyed the show. We'll join Philly Pressbox Radio next Thursday, January the 2nd at 7 p.m. You can see us live on Facebook, on our Philly Pressbox Radio YouTube channel, and on the STT Sports Network YouTube channel as well. Listen on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and all the others. Happy New Year's, everyone. High hopes, Philadelphia sports fans. Go Birds. Go Penn State.
And yeah, Happy New Year.
Should old acquaintance be forgot and never